Hello and welcome to another edition of History, Science, Fiber. I'm Zoe McDonald, I'm a biologist, and today
we're doing marigold, and they're going to make the perfect color. You're going to love it. It's going to be orange.
So before we begin, I just wanted to say that if you hit the subscribe button and the alert icon just to the right of it, you can know when future videos come out which focus on how to forage and grow your own natural dyes using a wide variety of plants, lichens, and mushrooms. Now, marigolds are an annual or perennial in the aster or sunflower family. They are native to southwestern United States and into South America and are a popular addition to gardens all over the world. They grow easily in a wide range of hardiness zones. They like well-drained soils, and many are drought resistant, and they do prefer full sun. The fluffy and cheerful blooms occur in a wide range of colors, from yellow to gold and all the way to a dark orange with maroon highlights. You will want to grow the darker bloom varieties to maximize your color potential. They are culturally important in parts of pre-Hispanic Mexico, are still used today in Day of the Dead celebrations, as well as in parts of India. They are also good for butterflies and bees, as they provide a nectar source and are thus beneficial for many wildlife. Today I'm going to show you how to get multiple colors just using the one dye pot. So when it comes to harvesting the flowers, this plant will keep making more throughout the summer and into the fall if you regularly remove the flowers. So if you're growing them and you don't have a lot of space, you can always regularly harvest the flowers and either dry or freeze them until you have enough for your project. They can be stored to dye with for at least a year if you've dried them or freeze them properly. So how many flowers do you need for a project? Well, it depends on the results that you're looking for. I recommend at least a 2-to-1 ratio of flowers to weight of fiber, or twice as much flowers by weight as you have fiber. But I've seen people use a lot less. If you want rich golds, go for 2-to-1 or more. Or if you're okay with paler yellows, you can go down to a 1-to-4, or 1 pound of flowers every 4 pounds of fiber. The gold in marigolds is a carotenoid, which is the same group of pigments that give carrots their orange. It is relatively stable, but as all yellow dyes, they will eventually fade in the sun. So you can use marigolds on plant fibers like cotton and linen when you morden with aluminum acetate. For animal fibers like wool, which is what we're using today, you will want to use alum, which is potassium aluminum sulfate at 16% weight of fiber. I also use iron or ferrous sulfate on one hank of the wool at 6% weight of fiber. Today in total, we'll use 5 wool hanks mordanted with alum and 1 mordanted with iron. I'll put a link below in the description on how to easily mordant your own fibers before you dye. First, I collected the flower heads using snips and used them fresh. In total, I collected 316 grams of flowers, or 0.7 pounds or 11 ounces, and used 33 grams of wool, or 1 ounce, for my first dye bath, and 22 grams or 0.8 ounces of wool for my second, or the exhaust bath. I like to use these cheap mesh paint filter bags you can pick up at many paint stores. They come in a variety of sizes. Here I'm using a 5-gallon size that fits my dye pot nicely. They're really useful for filtering out the pieces before your fiber goes in, but instead you can always strain it through a cheesecloth or just use a fine strainer, whatever works. I place the bag first in my pot and roughly chop up the marigold into the pot, and then I add the water and place it on the stove to heat. From there, I heated the dye stuff up to a simmer, being careful not to let it boil. Try to keep it at about 80 degrees Celsius or 176 Fahrenheit or below for about 1 hour, and monitor it so it doesn't boil and ruin the dye pigments. While the marigold simmers away happily, I wanted to pre-soak my fiber. Pre-soaking it before adding it to the dye pot means it can sink down easily and take up color more evenly. So I unwound and soaked them for at least 20 minutes. I soaked the 3 hanks, 2 mordanted with alum and 1 with iron. Now you want to separate the dye liquid from the flowers so they don't stick to the wool. I removed the bag and the vat was ready for the fiber. Here I added the 3 hanks in, and I added them in and then heated it back up to a simmer. And I stirred it every 10 to 15 minutes and flipping it at the halfway mark to help the dye uptake evenly. After the fiber has simmered for the hour and cooled, you'll notice that the alum mordanted wool is now a gold and the iron mordanted one will be a dark chocolate brown. Now there's another way to shift color besides mordanting, and that's introducing your fiber to a mordant after you dye. This is called a post-dye dip or a modifier. Take one of the gold colored hanks, that's the one pre-mordanted with alum, and make up a jar with water and about a teaspoon of iron mordant or ferrous sulfate. You can also use rusty water if you want to make your own iron mordant. Now you can add this hank straight into the jar and it will make a gorgeous green, or you can make it variegated by twisting up the hank as tightly as you can and adding it into the jar. The longer it's in, the darker the color will go, but iron is hard on wool. I kept it in for exactly 2 minutes and then rinsed it out. At this stage, we have a gold, a variegated green and gold, and a chocolate brown. You can also get more colors by adding more fiber in and using the vat again. This is the exhaust bath. I added in 2 more hanks mordanted with alum and did the same iron modifier or post-dye dip on one of them. In the end, I got 5 colors with the marigold from one pot, ranging from gold through an olive green to a dark brown. I also compared these colors to both the tansy and goldenrod I dyed with in previous videos. I'll put a link in the description. Here is the tansy on the left goldenrod in the middle, and marigold on the right. You can see how much brighter a yellow was achieved with a goldenrod and how much darker the marigold came out. Marigolds are easy to dye with and fill the kitchen with a fresh lemony scent. The plants make prolific blooms, so space is very limited in your garden. You can get quite a lot if you regularly prune back the flowers and collect them. I hope this was useful. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. That's it for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future videos. Hello and welcome to another edition of History Science Fiber. I'm Zoe McDonald. I'm a biologist, and today
we're dyeing marigolds, and I'm hiding. You can't see me. Boo!
we're dyeing with marigolds. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another edition of History Science Fiber. I'm Zoe McDonald. I'm a biologist, and today
we're dyeing mushrooms.
No, marigolds.
Hello. Hello.
I have to start.